Oh, I didn't notice you there. Just kidding. This is DH Thorn here, and I wanted to do a short video today. I swear it's going to be a short one. Of course, we have the police coming to get me. A short video today talking about mirrors and reflective surfaces and how important those are in Magick. If anybody's studied any pictures of my ritual tabletops and things like that, you'll notice that I almost always use a mirror somewhere as well as a scrying ball, something like that. I find them very useful. Okay, a mirror is very useful because even if it's just a simple piece of crap mirror like this, a little shaving mirror, whatever this is, when they're consecrated and you have in your intent that that is what it is, this helps become a doorway. This helps become a gateway between worlds. Okay, let me get up for a second. I'll even show you what I mean. You'll see on my little altar here, I have certain seals, and they're actually on mirrors. Okay, that is intentional, and you can put candles on top of them. You can do it whatever way you want. But a mirror, for one way or another, whatever reason, you can make it a black mirror, you can make it a clear mirror, whatever it is, they have the ability to reflect the spirit world through them. So when you are scrying, there's a couple of things going on, okay? The first thing that's going on when you look in a scrying mirror for a length of time, the first thing that happens is the Troxler effect. And if you don't know what that is, you can look it up, but essentially the Troxler effect is where you start to hallucinate. You start to see distortions in what you're seeing, which are optical illusions. It's kind of like the exact same thing that causes, like there's one going around that I've seen recently where it's like a ball and like a wall and like a weird ripple, and if you look at it, it looks like the ball is turning and the thing is spinning, but it's not. It's just the way the Troxler effect distorts everything, and it creates a hypnotic effect. Well, when you scry into a mirror, especially in a dark room where the details are a little obscured and you're just kind of dealing with the just the shapes in the mirror, the Troxler effect starts to take over and starts distorting your face, and your face will start to take on other visages. Okay, you will no longer look like yourself. In fact, you can become convinced that's not you in the mirror anymore, even though it is. You blink a few times and it goes away. Now, what this is doing, that's not by itself magic. A lot of people think that's the magic. That's not the magic. The magic is what that's doing to your subconscious mind. When you're doing this, your subconscious mind doesn't know anything about a Troxler effect. I mean, it does, but it's not. It's seeing you getting distorted, and it's starting to see shapes and so on. And just like a Rorschach ink blot test, it's going to start creating meaning for those shapes. It's going to try to pick out meaning. What happens here is this starts to create a holistic interface between the mind, body, and soul that I talk about in other videos. This creates an interface now where the spirit world can start influencing your subconscious mind to see things through your third eye. So when you're scrying, when you're using a mirror, you're looking into it, the Troxler effect takes over, you're going to an optical illusion state. It's almost like when you take something that gives you motion sickness or something, your brain thinks that you're poisoned and it makes you throw up. In the same way, this Troxler effect convinces your mind and your subconscious mind that something freaky is going on, and it will desperately, not in fear, but it will desperately try to make sense out of it, and it will start creating, sensible and rational things out of the shapes and symbols that you're seeing in the mirror or in your scrying bowl. That's how this all works. Or in a candle, for that matter. If you stay on a candle flame long enough and you let your eyes defocus, that's a very important part of this, by the way. Whenever you're scrying, you need to look through the object. When I say look through it, I mean, if this is the object, you're looking way past it. You're looking at the horizon, and the object just it'll start to disappear, actually. And if you're looking at a candle, you'll start to see waves of energy coming off a candle. If you look at it, you will start to see, and it's undeniable. It really is. It's phenomenal what happens. King Paimon loves to show up in candle flame for me. I can stare at a candle flame, and I'll start seeing his entourage, almost like it's a desert, and he's coming out, and I'll see everything start to appear and things start to happen. Really, it can get to you. And the flame will separate, and you'll see 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll start to see each candle flame as a person. Your subconscious mind will take this and run wild with it, and your third eye will open, and now you're suddenly in the astral state, and you're seeing the spirit world. Trust me, this is what's happening. So when you're scrying into a mirror, or if you're using a mirror in ritual, okay, There's more to it, of course, than just what's going on in your mind. The mirror, because of how it works, it's reflecting back reality, and it is creating a mirror image of these higher dimensions. Okay, um, and entities can appear in them much more easily than they can appear in your vision. Just like it's easier for an entity to speak through an EVP than it is for it to speak with a disembodied voice in your reality. You might hear it in your third, in your astral ears, and you can hear it, and it becomes a voice in your head. But other people won't usually hear that. But on an EVP, okay, they can. A mirror works in much the same way. A camera works in much the same way. I have a video, which I've shared unlisted, like most of these are going to be, of a ritual I did on Sam Hain. And as I'm doing the ritual, the wind picks up, and you can feel the energy really building. It's really impressive. Then at the end, I give the offering. And then when the flame blazes up, which causes a little bit of a lens flare effect, which is normal. This is what a camera does. But this lens flare starts to take on proportions, shapes, and dimensions that, to my eyes, if you look at it, starts taking on the silhouette of a person, like smaller than me, but coming into the fire and like hovering over it. And you get this really cool, like almost like God rays coming down and aiming at the fire, and it's like it's coming from me, like from my chest, and eating the fire. And now I know, because I'm not stupid and I know a lot about technology, I know that this is a glitch. This is an artifact caused by the contrast, by the lens flare, and all this stuff. But the fact that this glitch looks the way it does and does what it does, this is the part. Remember what I often say is magic takes the path of least rational resistance. What that means is magic will work through rational, logical, mundane phenomenon. And it's up to you to spot the correlation. It's up to you to see the synchronicity. Synchronicity is that gap bridger that this was magic and not just a coincidence. Okay? Coincidences happen all the time, but synchronicity is different. Mirrors work the same way. Cameras work the same way. You'll see things that if a scientist experimented with you, he'd say, you're hallucinating because you're staring into a mirror and you're giving it meaning. Well, yeah, that's exactly what magic does. You're seeing something, and you're seeing something in the mundane world, and it's your astral, spiritual self that recognizes the correlation and the combination of events as being something that isn't rational and mundane and everyday. It's the difference, like in the movie Signs, between someone who sees an event and just thinks it's a coincidence and someone who thinks it has a deeper meaning. Now, that is not something you can be taught. This is a thing you have to experience to understand. If you're a skeptic and you're watching my videos, you're probably thinking that I'm nuts. I used to be a skeptic, a real one. I'm not saying I was a skeptic. I mean, I would go and I would debunk every spiritual thing I would see because I had left that behind in the past. I had lost my interest in spirituality. I believed that I was being lied and I was deceiving myself until it all started to happen again. And I became reawakened into my spiritual self, and demons started not just calling to me. We're talking, they were throwing bricks through my window saying, you need to get back with us. It's time. Okay, so in the very same sense, you have to find, your synchronistic meaning, and you have to learn when you're looking in a mirror. Now, one thing I want to tell you is a mirror doesn't work for everybody. A crystal ball doesn't work for everybody. A candle doesn't work for everybody. Really, you don't need them. You can get this to happen while staring at a sheet of paper. You can get this to happen while staring at the walls, at your cell phone. There's nothing necessarily special about a crystal ball because it's a crystal ball. It's not because it's made out of quartz. It's not because the mirror is made out of old leaded glass or something like mine. I have a very ancient mirror. It's over 150 years old. What that does is, knowing that it's old and that it could be magic because it's so old, that gives my subconscious mind an excuse to just go and play ball with the visions that I see in it. And the visions I see in that mirror are monumentally more effective and powerful than this big, beautiful crystal ball that I have here, which is gorgeous, and I do get visions in it. But that mirror, I mean, I go on spiritual journeys in that mirror, and I stumble around the house after I looked at it, and in days. That mirror is absolutely a gateway to another world, and someday I'll give you a review of it. I'll show you. My point here is, a lot of this is something you have to have the right expectations for when you're using these mirrors, when you're using your magical processes. You have to have the right expectation of what magic does. Hollywood and pop culture and stories and comic books and video games, and I got another train going by, toot toot. will give you this unrealistic expectation of what magic does. It will make you think, well, this will give me telekinesis. It'll give me the ability to shoot a fireball. Now, I know that there's a lot of people who do magic that will disagree and say it can give you telekinesis and blah, 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 blah. Okay, if that's your experience, that's your experience. My experience is more subtle, but more provocative. It is it is greater. You know, being able to move a cup across the table with your mind is pretty cool. I would love to be able to do it. I'd probably cut my left arm off to be able to do that. But being able to cause, you know, an election to go my way just because I've cast a spell, I'd like to have that power a little bit more, wouldn't you? Wouldn't you like to be able to have big, huge synchronistic effects? You know, you're going to lose your house, you cast a spell, and suddenly, you know, you come into winning money or something like that. Wouldn't that be better than having telekinesis or something? Not saying that I'm knocking it, but my point is that magic works on that level. Magic works on that synchronistic level, and it will give you visions, and it will give you, you know, these really spooky coincidences. And it will do it when it is right to do it. You know, your magic should be following your truest will. You are not willing the world to do what you want. You're learning to see what your truest will is. You know, a lot of people in the left-hand path, they think it means that your ego becomes dominant of reality. That's not quite what it means. It becomes the understanding that your ego is what you think about yourself, and your ego isn't you. That's not you. You think your ego is you if you're not very advanced. Once you're advanced, you realize your ego isn't you. That's your puppet. That's your stage performance that tells everybody who you are. Your real will is behind that. Your real will is the space between your thoughts, not the thoughts you think about them. So your real will is what you're trying to get in tune with when you're working magic. You're trying to get in tune with your truest will and having something happen because that's what has to be done. I've often said to people who work magic, did you cast the spell and cause the effect, or did the effect cause you to cast the spell? That's something you really need to think about. When you're working magic, which came first, the magic or the result? So keep that in mind when you're doing what you're doing. You have to transcend these normal, everyday, mechanical expectations of magic. You have to be open to the idea that magic works in rational ways and takes the path of least rational resistance. It does not like to, you know, literally move stars in their orbit just to give you what you want. What it will do instead is it will create this weird coincidence of events that just seems really unlikely, but it happened, okay? And that's where magic works, and that's how you have to think of it. So when you're working with this mirror, and I'm telling you all about the Troxler effect and how this is not like this mirror, this is just a cheap little mirror that cost $1 on Amazon. This is nothing. But when I put a sigil on top of this, my subconscious mind knows that I am opening a bigger gateway, a much more magnified gateway, and this mirror suddenly, like a light shining through it and empowering the sigil, blasts it into the astral plane. Even if I'm not looking into the mirror, subconsciously I know that's what it's doing. My energy goes into it that much more fervently, and things take place. So that's about all for this video. I just want to encourage you to pick up some mirrors. Don't hesitate to grab a few mirrors and experiment with them. See how you can use them in your rituals. See how you can use them in your layouts. See how you can use them in scrying. You don't have to use just one mirror when you scry. There's no reason why you just stare into one mirror and bang, something happens. You could have a whole layout of mirrors, and each one could be arranged a different way with a different meaning behind it. It doesn't have to be black. It doesn't have to be silver. It has to be what works for you. That's the bottom line. Okay, guys, this is D.H. Thorne. Mind the shadows.